because the DNC is a national security event, too, just as the RNC is.
Oh, yeah.
BLM Brandon, the mayor of Chicago, if there's any mayor that understands the value of protest and demonstration, it's me. Without protests and real demands of a government, people of color and women do not have a place in society.
Oh,
says a person of color who's the head of the city government. Okay.
yeah, and everybody,
and everybody else in Cook County,
right,
in Chicago,
and women
in the
and
state.
black.
I mean, it's just. But this is they have a mantra, and they are going to repeat it regardless of reality. I can't impress it upon people any better than BLM Brandon impresses it upon them.
I mean, does he not know Tony Preckwinkle, Kim Fox, and go on and on and on? His predecessor, Lori Lightfoot.
He knows the mantra is what he knows, and that's what the left knows. That's what they know, and that's what they will repeat without fail to the bitter end, whatever that looks like. But the national security issue is real, and the pro-Hamas types that raised the Palestinian flag at Daley Plaza over the weekend have already said they're going to be out in force. They want to do demonstrations near the main hall, whether they have a permit or not. They're going to, of course. Why would any restrictions apply to them in the city generally any more than it does, say, on the campus of DePaul within the city? But the national security concerns, what would a right and proper city government be thinking about in advance of hosting a major event like the DNC and other major events that we're going to be hosting this summer? But this one's political, obviously. What would it's the same question for Milwaukee in the state of Wisconsin. So let's start there with Steve Bucci, who is a gentleman who served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. He's a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies now. Stephen, thanks for joining us. So what would you, if you were enlisted, give us some things to think about from a security perspective in terms of external threats, in terms of opportunities for terrorist organizations, domestic or foreign, to seize upon an opportunity to throw a major party's convention into tumult, like Chicago or like Milwaukee.
Well, we've talked about this before. Terrorists use a 3-point targeting methodology. They want the targets to be soft. They want them to be spectacular, and they want them to be symbolic. Can you think of 2 events that better fit those 3 criteria than the 2 national party conventions that are coming up? Yes, there will be protests. We have them at almost every national party convention because somebody's ticked about something that party's not doing or is doing. But to make a comment like your mayor made is kind of silly. Protests are not the same as riots. Protests are not the same as terrorist actions. You have to make a distinction between them. And in some cases, it's tough. I recognize that. But if he doesn't allow his police force and the national assets that will be there in Chicago, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, all that stuff will flow into the city because it is a national security event. He's crazy. And you'll have a disaster, which will be a disaster for the country, regardless of which party you're part of. We can't have these things disrupted. So they have to keep people away from the venue. They have to keep them out of the venue for sure. And that's going to require, sadly, probably some tough actions by the police because a lot of these folks who are doing the disruption that we've seen over the last, couple of months on campuses and other places are more than happy to be destructive. They're more than happy to make a mess, to go after the police with rocks or bricks or sprays or any of that stuff. This is going to be a major event in these two cities, and to downplay it because he understands protest is either the height of hubris or the height of stupidity, and probably both.
And the concern specifically about Islamist-related terrorism. I mean, we have to be specific about that. I know the other side would say like white nationalists or something, or Trump supporters. But so they can have their conversation. I want to have mine. Islamist-related terrorism because of what is occurring in Gaza right now and what we've seen on campuses, and some of not just the behavior but the pronouncements that perhaps foreshadow violent behavior. There's a lot of promotion of the tolerance of violence in pursuit of their goals. And so, how much is and should this be on the radar of the alphabet soup of federal law enforcement and intel agencies?
Well, hopefully the intel and law enforcement agencies will not, at this time duck under the cover of wokeness and say, well, we'll just worry about the crazy people on the right, and these others, well, they're just good folks trying to get their message out. Because there's a ton of folks at the other end of the spectrum. Some of them Islamists, and you properly use the term. That's got nothing against Islam or people who are Islamic. Islamists are the radical political portion of that community, and they are more than willing to do crime, to do terrorism, to hurt people. And if they can do that and disrupt our election, that's a win for them. Likewise, some of these other folks, the Russians perhaps could try and do that, though they tend to use more cyber and sort of psyops kind of things rather than direct action. But hey, we're putting a hurt on Iran in several places, and Iran is the biggest funder and supporter and enabler of Islamist terrorists, and they could take this opportunity for a little payback for some of the things that have happened to them of late. To ignore that or to think it's a non-issue is really, really not just dangerous but deadly, and hopefully that's not going to happen in your city.
Well, we keep hearing like free Palestine, but online, I mean, I'm watching video after video of Hamas cutting the hands and feet off of Palestinians who are just trying to get some humanitarian aid to get some food. And do you think that will ever seep into these woke snowflakes on college campuses?
Lord knows we're praying that they will open their eyes and see who it is they're supporting, the kind of people that Hamas really are. They are not simple Palestinians just looking for freedom. They are ugly, evil, and determined not just to remove political Israel from the game. They literally want to see the Israeli people exterminated. They are the ones, calling for Hitler's return. They are the ones who think Hitler was a hero and just didn't go quite far enough. It's, and their religious leaders were part of that during World War II. People seem to forget, before the founding of Israel, they were cheerleaders for Hitler, and Hamas and Hezbollah and several of the other groups that Iran supports, and probably the Iranian government too, truth be told, are the descendants of that mindset and that ideology. Now, they focus in Islam, but, it's real.
Yeah, they were cheerleaders for the 9/11 attackers too, one might recall. Yeah. It makes this all the more troubling, which is that most of the world supports empowering Palestinians as a response to Israel's response to the October 7th terrorist attack. 143 countries supported a resolution to reconsider and support the full membership of Palestine into the United Nations, while granting them new powers, the right to introduce and co-sponsor proposals, as well as amendments within the Assembly. The only 9 countries who voted against that resolution: United States, among them United States, Israel, obviously, Hungary, Czech Republic, Argentina. Boy, so Orban's Hungary and Malay's Argentina, United States, and the rest of the West is not to be counted. It's fascinating dynamic there, and what that tells us about the geopolitics of this, and frankly, what it tells us about the truly existential risk that Israel faces, as most of the civilized world is happy to turn a blind eye.
Oh, absolutely. Israel is not being, hyperbolic about the threat that they face. In fact, if anything, they're pretty low key about it. But they're also realistic and say, look, we know what we have to do. We know what we have to do to protect ourselves. We don't want to make things worse in the region, but we also are not, that desire to not stir up trouble in the region is not a death pact or a suicide pact for them. And they're not going to do it. And it doesn't matter what Joe Biden, wags his finger at and tries to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu and say, you better listen up or, you're going to pay a price. Instead of wagging that finger at the people who started this whole event, they go after Israel. It is just, I have to be honest with you. I know a lot of people focus on President Biden's desire to get reelected, and that is clearly a part of this motivation of stabbing Israel in the back. But I'm very concerned that another piece of it, which is not getting attention right now, is the embedded connection that the Biden administration has with the Iranian government, which they got very boldly from the Obama administration in the personnel that they hired and the attitude that Iran somehow is going to be a positive partner in the Middle East. That is so nutty and so off base, but it is clear to me that is a major motivator in these actions. They are bowing to the Iranians' desire to not eliminate Hamas, to not make Hezbollah a non relevant player. They don't want the Houthis destroyed because those are their tools to influence the region. And we are playing right into their hands by turning on Israel here.
Well, speaking of Iran, so we recently had a legislator there, a politician there, declare that the Iranians have achieved nuclear weapons. So is this like some Kim Jong-un saber rattling, or do you think this is real? And if they haven't achieved them, they're close?
Well, I mean, everybody knows they're close. I think the consensus opinion is they have not yet achieved it. They may have a device. It has not been miniaturized sufficiently to be used on any of their missiles, but they are very close. The Israelis clearly are, spend a lot of their intel power and money to focus on that one existential threat that they have there. And they haven't said they've got it. So until Israel announces they have it, which will probably be the day after they destroy all the facilities, we should not think that they actually have it. The public accounts of their government of that nature are not worth the paper they're printed on. They lie, they dissemble, they brag. That's all part of their plan. But that doesn't mean to discount it, because the fact that they're close is scary as all get out, and we need to take it very seriously and be ready to respond when we actually know that they do have it.
In another theater, Ukraine's top general says the situation in the northern Kharkiv region has, quote unquote, significantly worsened after Russia claimed to capture 4 villages, extending its surprise cross-border offensive. There's some dispute about that, but even UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron acknowledged that we're at a dangerous moment in Ukraine, adding that Russia had effectively invaded Ukraine again. So what's your handle on the situation in Ukraine?
Well, I don't think in this case the Ukrainians are exaggerating. They are usually very optimistic. So when they come with this pessimistic analysis, I think it's probably accurate, at least. That the Russians have made some progress. They've taken back some of the villages in that area, and that's not a good thing for Ukraine. They want to keep their terrain free and out of Russian hands, and every foot of it that they lose to the Russians is on the downside. It is important that we continually evaluate that situation and adjust our policies accordingly. I think that the folks that are ready to walk away and say, what's the big deal if Russia takes it, are a little bit, they're some of my libertarian friends, and I understand that position, but in this case, it does have relevance for American security, and it's a place where we need to be strong. We don't want to get in a full-up, direct war with Russia, but I think we should help the Ukrainian people to protect themselves. They were invaded. They didn't start this. This is in the same mindset of, we all of a sudden we have to protect the Palestinians who attacked Israel.
But again, the question we've been checking in on this, and you have to take stock. At some point, you have to say, yeah, I agree. We're opposed to the Russian invasion. We'd like to see Ukraine repel the Russians. What's the realistic possibility of that, and what are we willing to do or not do, spending-wise or more, in furtherance of this? I mean, there has to be some sort of measurement of probability here when it comes to if these resources are brought, this is the most probable outcome, and make a decision on that basis, right? I mean, it's just like this.
Yeah,
this open-ended lack of a cost-benefit analysis just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, you've got to do that cost-benefit analysis. You have to do it well. You have to do it with a lot of oversight as to where the stuff goes, so you don't have leakage to to corruption and things like that. But it is it's not a throwaway. Let's put it that way.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. He's now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen Bucci, thank you as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Another near 80-degree day today, and it's the worst time of year to be suffering from joint pain sitting inside, watching others enjoy the outdoors. So if you're tired of achy joints due to arthritis or an injury, contact my good friends at QC Kinetics before you agree to surgery, steroids, or medications. That's what tens of thousands of real-life patients around the country did, like Julie. Now, a doctor told Julie the only way she would get relief was knee replacement surgery. Well, she went to QC Kinetics for a second opinion, which you should always do, and she did not choose surgery. Julie isn't limping around anymore. She's riding her bike, going for hikes, and she tells everyone she meets about QC Kinetics.